Michigan Soccer Network, man! DCFC! Woo!
And your Detroit City Football Club.
The sights, the sounds of historic Keyworth Stadium. There's nothing quite like it. Each week, Jonathan Turner and Neil Rule will break down the most recent Detroit City FC USL Championship match, taking a look at the Eastern Conference standings, looking ahead to their upcoming match, and much more. Watch the Detroit City FC recap show each week on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Let's go City on the Michigan Soccer Network.
You are watching the Michigan Soccer Network.
Come on, City!
To the DCFC recap show. It is Neil Rule and Jonathan Turner. We're excited to be back at this again. A lot has happened in regard to Detroit City over the last time we did this show, Neil.
No, big moments, huge moments, some of the biggest moments going on in American soccer. Tons of matches as well in a very, very short time frame. There is a lot to get into here today, certainly. A lot of news, a lot of Detroit City. Let's just say it like that.
Yes, let's hop right into this one. Detroit City, they went into Houston Dynamo last Tuesday night. We recorded on Tuesday morning. We even alluded to that in our recording. And as a matter of fact, it was Jeremy Churchill who was like, I wish you guys could have forecasted the future to what was going to happen in our comments on YouTube. And they went in there, and in Detroit City FC fashion, and the 11th kick,
yes,
Saldana puts one in on the other goalkeeper for the Houston Dynamo, and they come away with a victory in penalties to move on to the round of 16.
No, and down 2-0, as you said, Jonathan, in classic Detroit City fashion, they're counted out. People thought it was over. Down 2-0 on the road in an MLS stadium to the defending U.S. Open Cup champions. Huge payroll, all that stuff. And you know, the Detroit City FC never got that memo that match was over, and they came back not once, but they came back twice. And then in the end, it had to be that way, right? Because it was always going to be that way with Detroit City. And Carlos got the job done, and certainly happy for Carlos Saldana also. And it's just it's another one of those huge moments. And Detroit City FC is always in the middle of these huge moments all the time. And, I heard a lot of people in really the social media discussion, and it kept me up for an extra hour on that Tuesday night because I wanted to see the reaction, because I say this every time this happens. What are you going to say now? Like if you're a Detroit City hater, if you're a detractor, whatever, what are you going to say now? Because some of the most magical moments in American club soccer, Detroit City FC is always in the middle of it. And here we are again. And in a match that nobody in the world gave them a shot to win that match. I mean, let's just be real about it. And certainly, too, you look at the schedule, 3 matches in 7 days. And it's just, that was Detroit City FC soccer. In 90 minutes plus 2 extra time sessions plus 11 penalties to decide it. That was Detroit City FC, and it was a magical moment. It grabbed a hold of American soccer that whole Tuesday night, as we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. It went nationwide. Everybody was talking about it, and it's just another huge moment.
Yeah, and you say everyone was talking about it. Well, we got to talk about it because on Jimmy Fallon, The Tonight Show, Glazer makes his way on to The Tonight Show wearing Detroit City. I'm actually wearing the same scarf that he was wearing. But it's really cool. So as we talk about, and you're talking about how Detroit City is always in the conversation in these big-time games. We saw it last year against the Columbus Crew in the U.S. Open Cup. We saw it here again this past Tuesday against the Houston Dynamo. Now, there's going to be people out there, the naysayers are going to be out there saying, well, they didn't put their first team out on that pitch on Tuesday night.
Neither,
and neither did we, though.
Neither did Detroit City.
Steinwasser wasn't in goal.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can say. What are you going to say? There's nothing you can say. And guess what? They went up against a $17-18 million payroll side in their stadium, and they won. And came back to do. There is nothing else to say. I keep saying this every single week. And maybe I'm soapboxing it right now. Maybe that is the case. But you know what? I have facts on my side. What do you have? And that's always what I'll go back to. Again, the most magical moments in Detroit City's in the center of it, and the Tonight Show, and John Glazer out there, and he had some choice words for the city of Houston, and that's something too that I'll always go back to. Like, what is it about Houston? Houston has all these teams and all these leagues out there. Nobody's ever at the stadium. There doesn't seem to be a lot of passion for it. And here's Detroit City again, just kind of popping up and doing what they do. And the match too. The match is everything you say you want in soccer. I mean, that was an incredible match. It got loose. It got fun. There were goals. It was everything that you say that you want in the game of soccer. And certainly we saw Detroit City FC and slay the Houston Dynamo. Again, like these are the facts. That's an $18 million payroll organization there that, took the L on their home pitch there. So again, it's one of those things. There is nothing to say. There is nothing you can say about the Houston Dynamo that you can't say about Detroit City as well. They're in the middle of 3 matches in 7 days, Detroit City was. So, again, going back to it, there's nothing you can say to detract from that. And the style of play was beautiful, right? When their back was to the wall, they went and created, and they got the job done.
It's weird because as a Detroit sports fan, I'm a diehard Detroit anything sport fan. And I'm sure that you are as well, Neil.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's not. This is not unique to Detroit City, but I feel like every time a team in Detroit is in the national spotlight, it's almost as if like they're all rooting against us, or there's a reason as to why that we won and the other team lost. You know what I mean? Like or maybe it's not the reason we won. Maybe there's a reason why they lost over a team like us. Do you ever feel like that's the case? Oh, Detroit's always up against the pundits, always up fighting against everybody to get what they deserve?
No, yes, it is. It seems like it's that way. But in the end, in Detroit City fashion, in Detroit fashion, like you just go take it. And again, there's nothing left for anybody to say. And in Detroit City FC, I think that's even a little bit extra because we hear it, right? Like, we hear the pundits talk, and it's always, Detroit City doesn't have this, and they're not this, and again, I'm not the one saying that, but you hear it. I hear it. If you're a fan of this show, it's obviously because you're a fan of Detroit City FC. You've heard it before as well. But that's what makes it feel so good, right? For Detroit City FC fans is, again, there is nothing that can be said because it's settled out on the pitch. And they're going on, and Houston's going home. Those through it all, who didn't play, who did play, what the scenario was, through it all, Detroit City FC's going on, and Houston Dynamo are going home. Period. End of story.
Yeah, in that case, they actually stayed home.
Correct.
Which is
correct. If you're into technicalities, you're right.
And as I said this last week, right? I spent a whole 2 days in Houston, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. So, but either way, hey, on the flip side of all of that, Detroit City had another game this past Saturday at home in a USL Championship matchup against the reigning champions of the USL Championship, and they drew 1-1 here against the Phoenix Rising at Keyworth Stadium.
And this one was always going to be the test. This one was always going to be the test because when you have the picture up there on the screen, the energy. And talking to the people in the organization that were down there, it was hot. I mean, it was really, really hot. It was really, really humid. To go 120 minutes after you played on Saturday, and then you circle the wagons and you come back after that emotional, that emotional match. What are you going to have left in the tank? And Danny Dicchio said it. And Ben Morris, by the way, that goal, that was quality. That was some high quality there from Ben Morris. And, Danny Dicchio talked about it. And the numbers are the numbers in the match and all that kind of stuff. The final 30 minutes of that match, there was nothing left. Nothing. And, they held on and they got a draw. And 3 matches in 7 days with another historic victory for the club that would grab nationwide attention. No defeats through the week. So certainly you will take that. And look, I'll say this. The draw against Phoenix, and I would say even to some degree the draw against Loudoun maybe are a byproduct of the U.S. Open Cup match there because, hey, it's extra for Detroit City. They'll say it's another match and everything like that. I'm a media guy, so I can talk in media speak. It means more to me, like as a Detroiter and as a fan. Like I'll cut the ish with everybody. Like to me, it means more. So I would imagine deep down, whatever they say to the media, they'll say to the media. It means a lot to them too, because I've always thought this as well. When you play those kinds of matches, it's extra, and they put more into it. They did. They absolutely did, because it's a huge moment. And does that come at the expense of what they were able to do the final 30 minutes on Saturday? Yeah. Am I going to complain about that? Certainly not, because I love the magic of Tuesday night. So if I have to sacrifice maybe 2 possible points to be at the forefront of American soccer and to be moving on in the U.S. Open Cup, then I, as a fan, I'm saying as a fan, not as an employee of Detroit City, as a fan, I certainly would take that. And if you're watching this right now, certainly you probably feel the same way.
Well, I think it's no different than when the Colorado Avalanche played the Red Wings, right? I mean, obviously you want you want them to win the league, but at the end of the day, you want to win that game on that night, right? It's the same kind of a concept, and I completely agree with you. I think when you talk about winning again against an MLS side in the fashion in which you did on Tuesday night, and then you go in and you have a draw, that is the byproduct of that midweek game like that, and
It comes at a cost. It comes at a cost.
As a former coach, I can tell you that the biggest thing when you beat a team, and you did so in the fashion in which Detroit City did it on Tuesday night, the high that they get from that, right? All the media attention, all the things, you're going to have a hangover the next game. It's going to happen. You're going to have this thing where it's hard to recover on the emotional side of it, but at the end of the day, they did not lose that game on Saturday. They drew against a very good Phoenix Rising side, a team that was reigning champions, and they did it coming off the back of the heels of a very, very good game in which they won on Tuesday night. So you got to tip your hats to them, because that's sheer grit and battle that came from them on Saturday to win that to tie that game.
No, and it's for me too, because I had media request after.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what it was like for them. I kind of go back to this, like when I did the Oakland Kentucky NCAA tournament game. Like I had media requests to do. So what was it like for the players? What was it like for Danny Dicchio? What was it like for people, inside the organization? It's something where it's not just the match. And remember too, Detroit City FC's a bit short right now anyway, due to injuries. Elvis Amo's out for the long term, and then Reese Williams, it was great to see him kind of bumping around again as well. So, remember that too. Like they're doing all this, not only like, 3 matches in 7 days, and not only, a 120-minute affair in 99% humidity and 88-degree heat down in Houston. They're doing all that a bit shorthanded. So, again, really, as far as Saturday goes, and Ben Morris, again, man, just a world-class goal from Ben Morris. So you love to see it, and Detroit City's in a great spot. They got through it. They didn't lose any of the matches through those 7 days, and they're in a really, really good spot. They have a lot of time off right now to kind of recoup and recover before they kind of get thrown in the blender again.
That they do. Take a look here at the Game 8 match report. Again, looking at percentage, 51.6% to Phoenix, 48.4% in favor of Detroit City FC. They're pretty close on shots, 9-7 in favor of Phoenix. Shots on target, 4-3. The stats in this are pretty much very similar to each other. Nate Steinwasser had 3 saves on the afternoon, 2 for Phoenix Rising. Again, a 1-1 draw. That 9th-minute goal by Morris was assisted by Maxi Rodriguez. And then Phoenix Rising notched it up 1 apiece in the 49th minute. That's how the game went down.
No, and it really kind of played out that way too. City had the jump and the buzz with the crowd and the national TV and the keyword scene and all that. They had the jump, but Again, Danny Dicchio said it. This isn't just my impressions of it. Danny Dicchio said it. That last 30 minutes was just kind of, can we get across the finish line? They were kind of like a race car that was on E, trying to get to that finish line. Are we going to make it or not? And they were able to hold on, and all is well. It was a historic week. It was a great week. They added a couple points, and again, their run of form at the beginning. See, don't forget this too. When we were talking about the whole 5-0 start, this is where the benefit of that comes into play, where you get a couple of draws and you still kind of maintain your standing of where you are, And there you see, as you just kind of put up the Eastern Conference standings right there. Remember, too, Detroit City FC, only 8 championship matches so far. And you look at Indy 11, that's right there. They've played 10. And Birmingham Legion's played 9. They still have matches in hand plus a lead. So that's certainly what you're shooting for if you're Detroit City FC. A couple of draws that they have tacked on, but still just the one defeat and just kind of sitting where they are. And still an opportunity, 2 matches in hand to Charleston Battery. So no worse for wear. We keep it pushing. Get your rest. And then, as we said, once Memorial Day comes and goes, get ready to get back in the blender again.
Well, that it will, as they have 2 weeks until their next USL
Correct.
Championship game, which it bodes well for those on the injury, the wear and tear, as well as just recovering after those three tough games here in 7 days, as you've talked about here throughout much of this show. Their next matchup is a U.S. Open Cup round of 16 game. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But looking at the standings, we've talked about Pittsburgh continues to move forward right up the charts. But a tough match coming up here on the 29th. Louisville City SC is the next matchup. They're currently sitting second in the table, just under Charleston Battery.
No, and it is, and that's the showcase match, right? Like that's how it is. I'm excited to be on the call for that match. I'll be calling that match with Gary Bailey, former English national team goalkeeper, former Premier League keeper as well. So I'm excited to get back in the booth with Gary Bailey, and he's a high-level dude, and it's going to be a high-level matchup. And this will be – and look, this is where for Detroit City FC – and I just want to put this out there too. I do, because it's something that I've noticed. Look at this run of matches where they play the U.S. Open Cup against the Houston Dynamo. They get the win. They chase that. They play the defending USL Cup champions in Phoenix Rising. Then it's a round of 16 match. Oh, by the way, they're on the road again at Indy 11. And then we go back to it. Oh, and then you're at Lou City. You know what I'm saying? Like this run of matches for Detroit City. And everybody's waiting, right? Like the detractors and everything like that. Everybody's waiting on it. Nobody in USL Championship has had this kind of run of matches, that Detroit City FC will have coming up here in May. So again, and then you chase that, you have the short turnaround. You go out to the West Coast to play at Orange County. I mean, it is absolutely a meat grinder coming up for Detroit City FC. But you know what? Would you really want it any other way? I mean, City fans, do you really want it any other way? No, this is the way it's always going to be. It's always going to be like this. So whatever, let's go.
Let's take a look here at the results here from this past week. Obviously, sitting there atop.
Oh, there were other matches.
There were other matches this
wow.
week. They're right. I know. Detroit City, obviously, that 1-1 draw over Phoenix Rising. Loudoun United losing to El Paso Locomotive. Rhode Island and Sacramento draw. FC Tulsa and Pittsburgh draw. Louisville City and Orange County draw. There were a total of 5 draws in this one this week. Phoenix Rising and Sacramento Republic also had a 1-1 tie. So, I mean, just a lot happening here in the table.
No, and that's favorable for City. You look at Loudoun United losing, Rhode Island with the draw, Pittsburgh with the draw, Lou City with the draw as well. That's about as good as it can. If you're going to draw your match, you hope everybody else draws theirs, and that's certainly what happened. So really, all in all, Jonathan, when you break this thing down, that draw doesn't really hurt you. You kind of keep it pushing. You take a couple days off the calendar and you keep it moving. So that's about as favorable as a board as you're going to see.
That we will. As we'll take a look here at the upcoming match coming up here next USL match, which is this is actually the next schedule coming up here next week. Let's take a look at the next overall match, which is coming up here right here. There it is. They play on the 29th is the next USL Championship match, and they'll be heading to Louisville for that match. Yeah,
absolutely. Again, we'll have that for you on Detroit 50 in the Detroit area. Myself and Gary Bailey on the call for that one. That one's going to be a ton of fun. Absolutely going to be a ton of fun. So we'll be out there. We'll be calling the match for you. And what needs to be said? I don't need to sit here and hype this one up, man. Like this is another one of those moves, kind of like the Houston Dynamo match in the U.S. Open Cup. Nothing needs to be said, man. Let's kick it.
That's right. That's right. We'll take a look now here at the upcoming USL schedule this coming week. We'll get into the next match against Indy 11 here in a second, but let's dive into what this USL Championship Eastern Conference for this upcoming week. A lot of midweek games here starting tonight, Tuesday, with North Carolina at Loudoun United.
No, and we're getting into that kind of stretch right now where as we get things rolling for the summer, you're going to see this with these various midweek matches that pop up. And you know how this works, everybody. You just you win your matches, you sit around, you kind of hope for draws in the other ones. Certainly North Carolina, Loudoun United, Birmingham Legion, Charleston Battery. Can anybody kind of dethrone this Charleston Battery team and what they have going on? And Indy 11, Hartford as well. And that's something, too, when we looked at the table back there, you saw kind of Indy 11 in that spot below Detroit City FC. You get your, you'll take notice, and you'll see that there as you kind of pop the standings back up there. Indy 11 and Birmingham Legion, just kind of keep an eye on them and see what they have going on. Again, you handle your business, and I think really an opportunity. Look, let's be real again, and I don't speak for Detroit City. I'm just kind of looking at it as the soccer fan. If you can get a result in Lou City, that's a place where there aren't a lot of results to be had. They are the class. They are the class of the Eastern Conference. They're one of the class franchises in this league as well. And that's I think that's kind of like the realistic goal when you walk in there. Hey, if we can get a result, awesome. That's not a point that a lot of people are going to get. You feel like you're kind of getting over on the Eastern Conference a little bit. If you can steal 3, that's huge. And then you go out to the West Coast and you play Orange County.
As we take a look here, now this is the game that we're all concerned about here over the next 7 days and 8 days. And, we just saw this. Indy 11 plays on Saturday against Hartford, right? So that game is up on. So they're going to have a similar situation of their own here coming up, Indy 11, playing 3 games over the course of 7 days. And does that benefit Detroit City at all? Or do you think that is something that maybe benefits Indy 11 more?
Yeah, the whole rest versus rust kind of thing. No, I think for City it benefits them because you're coming off 3 and 7, 3 matches in 7 days. That's a lot. I'll just say it like that. And no, I mean that's a Wednesday match. Indy 11 be coming off that Saturday match. No, it's got to benefit Detroit City FC because they're regened and they're ready to rock. They've had an opportunity to game plan as well, a little bit more than they might normally. And, yeah, I mean, it is something I think that benefits Detroit City FC. It's nice in that it is a situation that's a very drivable match for Detroit City FC fans. You're going to see a great contingent. That's going to be an electric atmosphere, I think, down there in Indy as opposed to what it was at the Houston Dynamo Stadium. The match may have been a rumor down in the Houston area. I don't know. But make no mistake, it'll be a different atmosphere Wednesday the 22nd when Indy 11 comes, when Detroit City FC gets down to Indy 11, and the La Rouge and the Northern Guard, they will travel well. I'll just say it like that.
So, Neil, we've in our comments during the last couple of recap shows, there's been conversation about injuries and injury updates. It's something that we have not talked about on the recap show. We're not given a ton of information in regards to injuries. That's a lot of times it's not like the NFL. This is not something that people just publicly talk about injuries in the USL Championship. Is there anything that we could talk about in regards to Elvis Amo, in regards to his, you mentioned he's out for the long run, but any injury updates for the viewer? Curious about that right now.
Last time I talked to Danny personally about that was last week, and it was kind of where I brought that up. Yeah, Elvis Amo it's a long-term thing. That's just the way that it's going to be. That the good news, bad news of it is it wasn't as dire as they feared. Let's just say it like that. So reading between the lines on that, I guess your walkaway is he's not coming back next week or in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks, but they do expect him back, which was better than the alternative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I would just operate and assume that Elvis Amo will not be a part of things at least for a pretty good stretch here. I wasn't given a timetable or anything like that. That's just where it sits. So again, just being around this for a while and reading between the lines, maybe like that 6 to 8 week thing. Again, that's just my personal, interjection on that. I'm not speaking for the organization or anything like that. but you will see him again at some point this season. So that is the positive of that. We saw Reese, kind of moving around and doing his thing and all that kind of stuff. So that is good to see. It's a slow grind. And look, like, it is not something that is unique to Detroit City FC. This is a long season that goes from pretty much St. Patrick's Day to Halloween. So every team will come up against that. And how can you manage it? How can you get through? And Detroit City FC right now, we've seen a change, certainly in what happens with City in matches and kind of the stretches. They pick their spots a little more, I think, to go on the attack. So we've seen them kind of roll with the punches as far as that goes. But yeah, no, to answer, that's a long answer to this that leads to this short answer that says pretty much going to be business as usual of what we've thought over the last couple matches.
No question about that. Again, if you have any comments or things you want to see out of this show, just put that in the YouTube channel, on our social media, at MI Soccer Network, anywhere.
Anything you guys got, man, I'll answer to the best of my abilities. I do have a regular weekly dialogue with Danny Dicchio too, through the media. So if there's ever something you guys want to know, let me know, reach out, and we can get it answered for you.
And that's a wrap here on week number, I believe this was week number 9.
Already? Yeah, look at that, man. Wow.
I know, it's unbelievable how time just flies, and we still did it in under 25 minutes. So with all that U.S. Open Cup talk, and so next week's gonna be a unique week. We typically record these shows on Tuesday mornings, Neil. This game is on Wednesday night. So I guess maybe we could do it on Thursday morning if we tried to, I guess, to do the recap show.
Yeah, but, I'm game for that.
Yeah, so maybe we'll bring one about Thursday and just do a quick, U.S. Open Cup. Hopefully we'll be talking about how they're moving on to the 8, the round of 8. That'd be kind of nice, right? So
I support that. That would be a lot of fun.
But either way, that's a wrap here. Again, we got this show done in under 25 minutes, and Neil, we're rolling.
Absolutely, we are, and looking forward to next week and all season long right here on the Detroit City FC Recap Show.